This is DeadpoolNegative. I'm back with another review, this time of What If? That's right, Aliens. What If? Number one. What if Carter Burke had lived? Now, this is an interesting comic. I have I have a theory about it, but I'll get into that later. First of all, I'd like to talk about a little bit about the Marvel comics and my own feelings about Paul Reiser, because this is his comics debut. He's credited as co-writer on the cover, but he's actually credited as co-creator of the concept with his son Leon and three other writers. But I want to talk first about Marvel's Aliens comics. I think they've been fine. They've been great. There's this thing is like there have been so many Alien comics. A lot of iterations of the franchise have been done. And although they hired some talented people like Philip Kennedy Johnson on the first series and Declan Shalvey on the second, they've been decent stuff. But they didn't knock me out. Actually, I did enjoy parts of the Declan Shalvey series, but honestly, it was like maybe 9-10 issues, and it could have been half that for the points it wanted to make. Also, like Marvel just split it into two ongoing series. Decent artwork by Shalvey and Andrea Boccaro. I would love to read. I kind of recommend it, but I'd rather recommend it when Marvel just puts it in one collection. The Johnson stuff I thought was decent. It had some good ideas, like why aren't there people? Like one question he was asking was why aren't people taking down Weyland-Yutani? But also it was drawn by Salvador La Roca, so. And I didn't. And I think there was a Benjamin Percy run shop. I don't read Benjamin Percy comics, so. But which brings us to Aliens What If, their current series, which came out last week, and once again I purchased at Comic Universe in Folsom, PA, on MacDade Boulevard. Now this series, once again, Paul Reiser, the actor who played Carter Burke, is credited as with concept with his son Leon, writer Brian Volk-Weiss, and writers Adam F. Goldberg and Hans Rodionoff, who are credited with writing this issue, the actual script for this issue. Now, Adam F. Goldberg, of course, is the creator of The Goldbergs, the TV show, and Hans Rodionoff is best known as the writer of the Man-Thing movie. Perhaps seeing he broke into comics a year before that movie came out with when Vertigo published an adaptation of his screenplay Lovecraft by Keith Giffen and Enrique Breccia, and he's jumped in and out of comics in the 20 years since. Most notably, for Marvel, he did a Damage Control miniseries with Goldberg and I believe artist Nathan Stockman, which I've read some of, and you can't be Dwayne Duffy, but it was a decent enough tribute to the original, decent enough continuation, I should say, of the original series. And now we have this series, and we'll talk about Paul Reiser for a second. Now, I remember in the 25 years ago in the 90s, I despised Reiser. I did not think Mad About You was a funny show. I still don't. I thought he was super lame, super annoying. Then around 97, 98, I remember distinctly watching this really strange comedy called Bye Bye Love, which was 1995, and which is one of his big first, hey, you like me in Mad About You, watch me in this movie. It's an ensemble comedy about a trio of divorced dads, Reiser, Randy Quaid, and Matthew Modine. And it's co-written by the creator of Family Ties, Gary Goldberg, and Brad Hall. But what's interesting is as a comedy, it's not that great. As an actual ensemble drama, it kind of works. I mean, there are things these three guys in various degrees of strained relationships with their exes, and I mean some of the things that Quaid and Modine characters do is kind of out of line. The Modine is one of the odder performances Modine's given, because his character is actually kind of sociopathic, and at the end of the film, they the end titles state that he is currently in therapy. That the character is currently in therapy, and it's about trying to figure out a balance between what your life was versus what your life is now, and that you've been divorced and with kids. doesn't work, but there's one scene in the film that always struck me, and it's like a typical cliche scene where his daughter, teenage daughter, played by Eliza Dushku, has a breakdown and runs back to their old house, crawls into the treehouse, and starts crying. And Reiser, who, has not been funny in that movie, but actually been decent in the scenes where he's required to be serious. There's actually a scene where Modine's ex-wife confronts him. You knew about his fidelity and you didn't do anything. And he's good. And he sits down with his daughter and he has his own little breakdown. He kind of says to her, he's forced to confront the fact that his wife is never going to get back together with him. His world has changed and he's got to learn to live with it. And it's really well done scene. I'm like, shit, man, you are not that great as being funny, but you're a good actor. And he was good in there's another show called Married where he plays a guy who becomes a father late in life, knocks up a woman half his age, played by Jenny Slate. And it's also a pretty good performance in a show that wasn't that great to begin with. I actually recommend it just for watching the character's evolution over the 2 seasons of the show as a guy who didn't want to be a father and he's kind of stuck with it to somebody who actually understands and accepts the responsibility of being a dad. But which brings us to it. I like him in Aliens. Yeah, I think Carter Burke was a typical Cameron, but there were parts, he was kind of a tired character, but there are parts in the film where especially when he's trying to come off as there are parts in the film where he does a good job with the sort of corporate sociopathy, that Cameron is good at despising, but, still puts the money in pockets of corporations, but that's another argument. So where does this book start and how does Carter Burke live? Well, we get a artist, Guiu Vilanova, does his own version of the scenes where it was the very first line is, it was Burke. And we get, basically the scene, we come up to the scene where he's confronted by the xenomorph, and that's the last time we saw him. I'm sure one day this project kind of the inspiration, Reiser was like, well, you never saw me get killed by the xenomorph. And what happens is, how did he survive? Well, he's in a cocoon when Vasquez and Gorman blow themselves up, and that dislodges the cocoon. He stows away on the Sulaco, and then something interesting happens. He stows away on the Sulaco, witnesses everything that's happening. He's awake and not in cryosleep, and he calls Weyland-Yutani. I think you can. Now, here's what happens next fits seamlessly with Alien 3. So seamlessly that I'm beginning to wonder if Reiser and the writers actually pitched this as a possible live-action Carter Burke project for Disney Plus or maybe even a movie. Because what Carter Burke does is actually a better explanation for what happens at the beginning of Alien 3. I'm not going to say exactly what it is because I think it's one of the better scenes in the book, and I really enjoyed the way artist Guiu Vilanova, who's best known for the Rosenberg run on Punisher, does Carter Burke's face, and that's the nice thing about but the thing is, the story jumps ahead 35 years later, i.e., we're at Paul Reiser's current age. And so, basically, now he's got a job. He's been working for Weyland-Yutani for years, but they found a way to screw him over in a way that's kind of, he had a wife and a baby, and the wife isn't in the picture. He's all alone. He works at a job. He basically works on an asteroid that mines a lot of material that's not really needed, but that's not super important. It's needed, but they don't mine a lot of it. And he's basically at the ass end of the universe. Basically, Weyland-Yutani found a way to screw him over with a lousy job for 35 years. And he was kind of blamed for what happened on Hadley's Hope, made a scapegoat. In fact, there's a great line late in the book where someone says, "It is wonderful. You should have been fired, but the great Shin-Yutani said, let you have a job." And I thought that was just a great bit. But anyway, his daughter, who is still on the asteroid, even though by the timeline, she's 35, 36. You'd think she would have moved on. Lives there, doesn't want anything to do with him. And the question of the series is, okay, do you want to see, even if you don't like Carter Burke, do you find him interesting? Do you want to see him redeemed? And I think I do, because there's something amusing about this guy being stuck for decades. And then, well, obviously something happens xenomorph related on the last page that sets him on a different path. And it's not so much a question of what is Carter Burke going to do to redeem himself. Should he be redeemed? It's more, what is he going to do, and will it be entertaining? And I think it will be. I mean, Rodionoff and Goldberg aren't great writers, but their Damage Control series, again, was quite solid. I've never heard of Brian Volk. The name sort of sounds familiar, but I'd like to think that, like, you know, if this was a pitch for a actual live action project, A, I probably would have wanted to see it more than I wanted to see Romulus, and B, why not? Like, why not? Let's see what this guy's attempt at redemption does. Will it work? Will it not work? I'm willing to find out. So I would give this a good recommend. It's not a great comic. It's a lot of setup, but its setup I thought was interesting, and characterization I thought was very solid. That's another thing. Like, some of the Marvel books, the characterization isn't great. Like, I'm an Ed Brisson fan, but the Predator comic, the character in that Predator comic is just dull. But I think Carter Burke is interesting. He's played by an actor I find interesting, and an actor I wish would do more drama, because I think he's great at it. So I can pretend this is a live action project. But anyway, once again, Aliens, what if? Number one, what if? I just love saying that. What if? And, you know, I give this a recommend, and especially if you like Aliens and you like Paul Reiser. Anyway, I've got more reviews on the way, and I will talk to you all later. Bye.